Hello, everyone. Welcome back to yet another political episode. So, we got some sad news today from Missouri. It has been confirmed that the former governor, who served not two non-consecutive terms, not two non-consecutive terms, that would have been a lot, though. But he served non-consecutive terms, being Missouri's 47th and 49th governor, and a U.S. senator. Kit Bond has passed away. In this video, we will take in account and to pay our respect to the said former governor and former senator, who has a pretty interesting electoral history. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm curious to know his political career because he was a state auditor. However, his auditor run, I don't know if he ran for auditor, but it's not been included in his electoral history. But we'll find out. So this is pretty much his early political career. He ran in the 1968 for the House of Representatives in 1968. Unknown if he won or not. Bond moved back to his hometown of Mexico, Missouri in the fall of 1967 and ran for Congress in 1968 in Missouri's 9th Congressional District, the rural northeastern part of the state. He defeated Anthony Schroeder in the August Republican primary, 56% to 44%, winning 19 of this district's 23 counties. In the November election, Bond came close to defeating incumbent Democratic U.S. Congressman Bill Hungate, 48% to 52%. Bond won 8 of the district's 23 counties. Out of Hungate's 5 re-election campaigns, that 1968 election against Bond was his worst performance. So, to me, I don't count the House races because they're just I like to include the state as a whole because it's going to be obviously different comparing that to the district to a state at large. It's going to be extremely different. A, less people. B, different politics, not to mention. It's like Minnesota. You run in Minnesota's 7th district, solid Republican, 70% Republican. And you try to compare that to the state of Minnesota at large, that's different. Minnesota's a blue state, but you're just running in a red district. So I really don't like to count the House races as, this was his worst performance. But I get that this is a part of the electoral history, and on paper, that is a fact. But so it says State Attorney General John Danforth hired Bond as the Assistant Attorney General in 1969, where Bond led the office's Consumer Protection Division. In 1970, at the age of 31, Bond was elected to Missouri State Auditor. Okay, so he was elected. So the auditor's race should be here. It's very weird that it's not. Hint to Wikipedia, but defeating 17-year incumbent Haskell Holman. As auditor, Bond hired 7 certified public accountants to the office, which increased the total from 1. So this was his 1970 race for the auditors, and we actually have the results. You can clearly see interesting results. Politics were different back then. You had Jackson County, Boone County, and St. Louis County, all Democrat counties today. They are now Republican. You'll see specifically in St. Louis almost went to Bond by 70%. And it's important to note that Bond is indeed a Republican. Back then in the 1970s, it was the Missouri boot heel, along with Southern Missouri. That's the Democratic stronghold. Back then, it's mostly because of the South. The South was still pretty Democratic back then, not so Republican in the state elected office when it comes to that. So I'm not surprised to see rural areas as well as rural areas up here that are today traditionally Republican solidly backing Haskell Holman, who has been in office for a very long time. And it makes sense why they rejected him so much, because he's been in office forever. Some people they're just done. They're done seeing your name on the ballot. They want to move on. And obviously they saw, you know what, we're going to all vote for Christopher Bond, Kit Bond. And they vote for him in a massive margin. and Missouri's a pretty big swing state back then. And usually it's pretty much all the time where Democrats win in these state elected offices in Missouri. But not this time around, because Holman was kind of an indictment. They were just tired of him running and over again. A lot of voters were just turned off. They're like, okay, you're clearly in this for your own game and your own profit. We're firing you. So I'm obviously opposed to a certain politician running over and over again, being a strong candidate. It's not that I don't like it, because obviously this is what can lead up to a big, massive defeat in a state you obviously should win in accordance to the state level. But he's been in there for a little bit, 1971 to 1973. What about the primary race for that auditor's race? Was there, obviously, we can confirm that we obviously know that Kit Bond won that nomination. We have state auditor. Nope, we don't have any information in regards to that. But I'm sure we'll hit some more information as we continue. But a big win for his 1970 run. But in 1972, 2 years later, he decides to run for governor. With limited name recognition, that probably wasn't a good idea. There was a chance that we would lose, not to mention Democrats usually win in the governor's office in Missouri. Well, Kit Bond defeated Edward L. Dowd, who doesn't really seem to have name recognition, but he defeated Dowd by like 11 points, which is very good. A solid landslide. So obviously, I would say that Bond is coming out and proving himself to be a very strong candidate, especially flipping offices that never go Republican. And obviously, being a Republican was an indictment and an advantage for Dowd, as obviously history decided to cancel him. But let's see if there was a primary. 1972 Republican primary. We don't have any information from Wikipedia, but Dave Leaps. Actually, not Dave Leaps, but U.S. election. Yeah, Dave Leaps has the information. 75% of Republicans backed Bond, carrying every single county. Even his struggle more in the suburbs and the urban areas. But still, that Jean McNary, her campaign never took off. So it was pretty much said, done, and over. 1976, it was some bad news for Bond, because he is defeated in 1976. Probably a coattail effect by Jimmy Carter, who is a Southerner. Missourians, Missouri, not necessarily a southern state. A lot of people say, oh, it's Midwestern. No, it's southern, being bordered with Arkansas. I guess it's in between. But Jimmy Carter obviously did pull a massive win in Missouri, and because of that, it kind of brought Joseph Teasdale to victory, becoming the next governor. Kit Bond kicked out of that governor's mansion. And pretty hard. Not that much, though. It was a very close election. But he didn't really bring any counties home. Did he flip anything? I know we haven't been looking at. We have just so much things to look at. But let's see if there's no primary for, according to Dave Leaps. But it was a close one. Definitely. Jackson County was what finished this for Bond. He lost Jackson, which has, of course, Kansas City. And you need Kansas City, because all along with those rural areas, you'll see St. Louis is pulling 60% for Teasdale. So, yes, you'll see he was losing votes in the rural areas. That didn't help him. But for losing Jackson, he performed pretty good. But I would say if this were in a midterm election, I think Kit Bond would have won re-election. Turnout was higher because presidential election year, people voted Democratic because of Jimmy Carter. He was the coattail that brought Teasdale forward. But he is defeated, but don't worry, he comes back serving a non-consecutive term. He goes and defeats Teasdale by like a 5-point margin. You'll see this time he flipped a lot back. You'll see Teasdale managed to get some counties up north of Iowa. But yeah, even with Jackson County, it's not a bellwether what determines the winner, though. You'll see it's mainly that more people turned out, and I would say, being the presidential year of 1980, Ronald Reagan was the coattail that brought Kit Bond back. Sorry, Jimmy Carter, people were disappointed of him. He was a dud. That didn't help Joseph Teasdale get across. He lost by 5 points. This was a game for the Republicans. Yeah, of course, that Missouri boot heel is always going to be in favors for the said Democrat at that time. But you'll see, even in the primary, Bond struggled to get the nomination a little bit. Yeah, he got the nomination pretty widely, 63%, against William Phelps, who got 34%. And that's true. So I won't say he struggled, but he did do pretty well, like 63%. Not as big as his first term, but you'll see he failed to carry. Phelps, in other words, carried, it's not going to tell me, Jasper County, these rural counties. This time he did better in the urban areas. Berry County, Vernon County, 77% for Phelps. He must be from Vernon. Miller County, Cole County, that's where the capital is, Osage County, and Macon County. So those counties ditched the Bond vote. But obviously, going forward, 1980, and I want to believe he serves only 2 terms, or he's probably term limited. Is he term limited? 1980, 1984. Chose not to seek a 3rd consecutive term. Okay, so he can't. Well, he can if he wants, but he decided not to. And guess what? Republicans still kept it in 1984. John Ashcroft won that election. But he ran for the Senate in 1986. He spent like 2 years in retirement until he was still recognizable. And he was successful at flipping the Senate seat in Class 3. In 1986, you'll see he defeated Harriet Woods. There's the Missouri boot heel. And yes, Jackson County's all stubbornly Democratic compared to St. Louis, which is pretty Republican, actually. But you'll see here clearly a same margin as his second consecutive run. But obviously, Harriet Woods was the lieutenant governor of Missouri. She had some recognition. Was she incumbent? Probably. Well, let's see. She was 1985 and 1989. So she just got it. 1985. So she ran the midterms. She's like, okay, guys, thank you for letting me in. Thank you. I'm your new lieutenant governor, but I'll be running to be your next senator next year. I don't think that resonated well with Missourians. Okay, we elected you to be the lieutenant governor, and now you're ditching us a year later. So I think that just helped Kit Bond in the long run. Fast forward, Kit Bond manages to win re-election to the United States Senate and actually does very well in the Missouri boot heel. It's actually Pemiscot. I think that's Pemiscot's Pemiscot. Yes, I was right. Yeah, Pemiscot is the only Missouri boot heel county. Still Democratic. But, yep, still struggling with Jackson. I don't know. Did he win Jackson in his first run? That's right. We didn't actually look at his senator primary. But 1982, no, he doesn't have a primary. 1980. Okay. No, this is the wrong one. Okay. So yeah, he probably won the primary unopposed, but 51%, 44%, pretty massive victory. Jerry Rothman, Sherratt, whatever it's called, whatever her name is, she managed to pull ahead with 44%. Being honest, a lot of it came from St. Louis and Jackson County. I'm getting a call here. But yeah, this is 44%. And then again, with split ticketing from Gene Bojarski, managing to pull a 6.96%. That's what determined the race for Kit Bond. And it looked like actually, I think Gene Bojarski was actually taking votes for Bond too. You would expect a much better win, like 52%. But even with that, I think obviously Bond managed to hold on. So he was pretty relatively very popular. Fast forward 1998, he is once again easily reelected, actually a much better time. He actually flipped Jackson County, and that's pretty much what determined and locked the election in for Kit Bond. If you can't win Jackson County as a Democrat, you're likely not going to win Missouri. It's a must-win bellwether for Democrats. If you lose that, Republicans can kick their feet up and say it's done. They're going to win. But looking here, 1998, you'll see, and they do have a primary. And yes, 86% for Christopher Bond. Technically unchallenged, but you'll see Joyce P. Leah, who got 3.93%, 94% of the vote in the primary, technically challenged him. But yes, you'll see, other that, Bond did struggle more in rural areas. He's gaining in Penobscot. But this county decided to flip back to Jay Nixon and go to Jay Nixon. And Nixon, a future governor, by the way, and not related to Governor Nixon. President Nixon, Richard Nixon. And he's a Democrat, a conservative one, I want to believe, more moderate, actually. He managed to pick up those rural areas, but looked a little younger back then, too. Wow. But fast forward to 2004, and you'll see a lot has changed. So at this point, Bond has carried every single county except for St. Louis, which isn't a county; it's a consolidated city. But whatever, no one can win St. Louis. But what's impressive here is Bond is improving a lot in these rural areas, and throughout his political career, it's proven that he struggles in. And yes, his opponent, Nancy Farmer, managed to flip back Jackson County and St. Louis County. Which has proved to be one of Bond's strongest counties in his state auditor's run. Times have changed. It's 2004, and this county's pretty much Democratic. But everywhere else, the rural areas where Bond technically did very well in and carried him across, never mind. Opposite, did very bad in and sometimes determined his election defeats. But specifically in that one governor's race when he tried to run for re-election, but failed. That's what kind of determined his defeat. He's doing way better. He's crossing up, got a county up to 80%. That county, I want to believe Barton County, very good performance. So he's popular. In fact, he did his best performance, 56% of the popular vote. That's a double-digit win, over double digits, almost solid Republican. And Missouri during this time has proven to be it's pretty Republican. It's now in this swing state mode. It was a big iconic swing state in 2008, so it's not fully Republican yet. But when it comes into determines of Kit Bond, he's a reliable juggernaut Republican, carrying that Missouri Republican Party all the way through victory in Missouri. But yes, he 88.8% of the popular vote. Mike Starger challenged the incumbent senator, receiving double digit of support. That's pretty good, but still, he got 88.8% of the popular vote. That's a win in itself. And he tosses the battalion to Roy Blunt, who keeps the seat red in 2010. It is pretty much certain that Bond would retire after becoming senator, after his long term as senator, running 4 times in the U.S. Senate. He is definitely an electoral juggernaut. But anyway, what do you guys think regards to Kit Bond? We obviously wish the governor ease and rest, and his family consolidation, and during this difficult time mourning his death. Anyway, thank you all for watching this video, and I'll see you all in the next political episode.